there was no understanding of what would be required to really prepare.
Yeah.
Other than like, here's the sets, and you're gonna practice those sets. But like the prayer and the preparation and probably the fasting that should have occurred. And like all of those things was not a part of that. And I remember at the end just feeling like so empty. And maybe the people who received something. I remember feeling great about executing the services, but I walked away feeling like, I don't have anything left.
Being in worship ministry, I've seen a lot. I've had some fails and some really cool wins, but all of that has led me to this. It's now my turn to share my journey and remind others you're not alone. Welcome to the Worship Afterisms podcast, where we discuss our worship fails and our faith wins while helping you find your key one afterism at a time.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Worship Afterisms podcast for our third episode. I am super excited, y'all, about the friend that I have with me today. It's honestly kind of overwhelming because when I actually dreamed up of this podcast, she was on the original list.
Wow.
Now, God has been changing the list over and over again for some people, but this one, go listen. So the first time that I actually met this beautiful woman in the worship scene, we were at a church out in the city. And what blew me away is I watched her from a platform, and she has this deep, rich worship voice that like low-key just hits the heart in a different way. But she was actually singing for one of our mutual pastor friends, and I was like, yo, who is that lady? Why is she making me feel the way I feel? And I got to meet her. I need to know her. I need all the things. I need to become friends with her. And man, it's been friendship ever since. And
For real.
Like in worship and in God moments, many of them. But I'd like to introduce all of you guys to Elise Lake.
Hey, y'all. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah. This is really fun already, so I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump in, y'all. Elise, I'm super excited that you're here, but tell us, how long have you been worshiping?
Oh, okay. I feel pretty confident in saying I've been worshiping since I was like 7 years old. Okay. So I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. A lot to say about Omaha, but my parents were, I don't know, like always involved in some sort of church. And I remember watching my dad like play the bass on the worship team. Yeah. And then, around 7, it's like, I want to join the choir. And I had an opportunity to do that. I remember the first song I ever led was like, shake, 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 shake the devil off. He's under my feet. Yeah, like I mean, now that I have an 8-year-old, thinking back to that time of like, I knew that I wanted to worship God at that age, and that it was more like I wanted to sing to do that. So I'm 36 now. So for a while. Yeah.
I love that. I want to dive deeper into that, but I got two things that I kind of want you to answer. I want you to kind of dive deeper into your worship story, but I also want to know, did worship choose you, or did you choose worship? And what did that all entail for you?
I think that's such a good question. I think initially worship chose me, and I feel like over the years I have had to come to the conclusion that I am intentional about choosing worship. So like music has just always been so super instrumental in my house. Like we grew up listening to all sorts of old school jazz, R&B, hip hop, like all types of music. But I remember the music that I was most drawn to was gospel. And then I think a part of that with going and watching my dad, it was just something that I enjoyed doing. I couldn't explain necessarily why. I couldn't play any instruments or anything, but like I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed listening to the music, seeing how it came together, seeing the different instruments. Now that I'm in my 30s and have like gone through so many seasons of life, like you don't know who you are, right? You're coming out of school, then you're getting your first job, then you're getting married, then you're having children. And at this point in my life, my worship is the only way that I feel like I can truly commune with God. Like I know that there are people who can pray and they can go in, or like interceding for people. For me, it's sitting down and just opening my and singing unto the Lord, like, and that could even be playing guitar. But if I don't do that, then I don't feel as close.
And it's like your life source. It's like
Yes,
it's a direct connection.
Yes,
for sure.
Like my way of communicating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. There's a lot of things, and I think for worshipers, and I think more people can relate to that than none. Like for worshipers, like a good word is good, right? I like to pick up my Bible, but the real thing that really connects me to the heart of God is the thing that He gave me. To get directly to Him. Yeah. And heck yeah, yeah.
For sure, man.
Heck yeah.
Even in like getting to the place of being able to read my word and receive what's in there, I feel like I have to first open that line of communication.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. It makes it easier.
Mm-hmm.
So easy. It's like it's a clean transition, which I guess is why we do it in church. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you
think about it, I guess
that's real simple. Well, you're right. You're right. That is probably why it's in the beginning and even in the end, right? Just like, and then you think about the word and like the Levites going ahead. So that connection makes sense.
Yeah. It's simple.
Okay.
So really what you say is we always on the front.
Yeah.
We're always on the front.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think for any young worshiper and worship leaders who are trying to figure it out, like you are the front line. Like you got to take that serious.
And I mean, we may not be here yet, or like we're not getting into it yet, but that's also one of my greatest difficulties with worship is the seriousness of being on the front.
Yeah.
I had seen somebody's real, and it just really spoke to me because she was talking about like people, when you're leading worship and you have people who are covering you, whether that's like a pastor or, like a group of leader, whatever, if they're not helping you understand what comes with being on the front, then you get messed up.
You're going to get bulldozed by the enemy, like for real.
Real talk. And that was not explained to me.
Facts.
So I feel like for those who are coming up like in worship, you have to learn that. And hopefully you're around people who will teach that or who will communicate that. But if you're going to take the position of leading through song, you have to be prepared for that. Like the enemy doesn't want that door to be opened. And man, that was a hard lesson to have to learn.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah.
I think one of the hard parts though that I've learned in even my own like worship journey and operating with some pastors is you start to realize they don't even know. So how can a pastor that doesn't know teach you, hey, you on the front line? Because a lot of what happens is like, ooh, what you do makes us feel good. And it changes something in us, and that's a part of the gift, right? Mm-hmm. Part of the gift is to shift things in you and make you feel a certain type of way. Yeah. Like it's a part of it. But a lot of times the pastors don't quite understand how great the gift is. They also don't understand
the responsibility of the surrender of the position.
Yeah.
And they don't understand the weight of it. So even as a leader, and I think it's really important to tell even leaders, hey, if you're not in that atmosphere, because a lot of times, I'll say it this way. I had a mentor tell me, he said, the worship leader and the pastor are communicating the exact same thing every Sunday, but they're speaking two different languages.
That's good.
Right? And I said, ooh.
That's good.
That's so good. But in that, I had to realize that because I'm speaking a different language, I may also have to take the forefront of teaching the pastor who doesn't know the language what the language is.
That's fair. That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I never thought about that responsibility, or I guess what I'm thinking of is like the level of, do we call it order?
Yeah.
You know, like,
yes.
where maybe it doesn't always feel safe, or like that's okay. So that's really interesting.
Now you're really getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting into that. Yeah. Safety and leadership.
Safety.
Is so important, but like it's not always there. And I agree with you. Sometimes that order of leadership, the pastor puts himself in a position that's greater than everyone else in the staff, and no pastor's learning, right? in some atmospheres, this is not all.
Not all.
The pastor is not learning, right? And they're not necessarily teachable. They're not surrendered to that. They're leading everyone. And they forget, like, there's some areas pastor, you don't comprehend it the same way, right? We're doing the same thing, but God gave you the gift to be an orator, and he gave me the gift to lead in song, right? And now I have to figure out how to connect with you and figure out how we mesh these two things together so that we ain't off, right?
Totally. Like I totally get there's vision, right?
Yeah.
There. And pastor, no disrespect, like you carry the vision.
Yeah.
Whatever God has given you, your job is to execute that and to do it with love and careful hands for the people. But then there's this element of like, but as a worshiper, there are ways to steward the spirit that we are just given. Like, that God has entrusted to us.
Yeah.
And so it's important to have that communication of like, well, what's the vision?
Yeah.
And then from there, let's co-create how to do that through worship. But I feel like in my experience, you have some churches that are like, these are the songs that I want to hear because these are the songs that make me feel good, or the songs where I feel, you know, the Spirit of the Lord.
Yeah.
And they may not even be connecting with the people, the congregation. But then it's like, man, I heard this song in the stillness of the night, and I really felt the presence of the Lord. And it's different. It's like it's not something that we're used to here, but I really feel like we should try it. Is it safe for the worshiper to bring that and to try that? Or is it not?
And that's the question.
Yeah.
And I think in some cases, no, because the pastor's yielding to culture or yielding to whatever they hear. But I think what's important, and this is really cool when it comes to leading worship, you have to be able to discern the separation of what God has given you in your intimate time and what God has given you for the body.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And I think sometimes pastors or even other people or even leaders, because they make this mistake too, you bring the song that the Lord gave you in your intimate time for you to feed you to the body, and it doesn't connect. Or you bring music that is catered to the culture and what people find familiar in pop culture and things right now, and it's not necessarily feeding the body, right? So you have to be, as a leader, able to discern what does God want for the body right now?
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're talking about. And pastors cultivating safe space and environments for a worship leader to say, hey, I know, Pastor, this is what you feel like the culture needs, but I hear God saying revival.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I hear God saying, you hired me to hear God in this level so that you don't, right? So that we can co-labor together so we can be partners. But I hear God saying revival. Now, Pastor, you pray on that, right? Because I'm always going to be yielded to my leader.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, I hear there's a sound in this song that I heard in the midnight hour that I know for certain is for this body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to shift just a little bit. I want to pivot.
Okay.
Because I want to chat with you about your own journey. So, when we were at the church in the city, Elise was helping lead worship, but there was a major shift in your own life.
Yeah.
You weren't only leading in worship, but you were leading in ministry areas for young adults and things like that. And the biggest shift happened for you where you was like, I hear God telling me to stop that, right?
Yeah.
For this season. And a lot of people didn't understand it, but I want you to share it because I think there's a importance in hearing God say, okay, this is your season to go after it, but there's a season of rest.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't always do that. And as leaders, sometimes we feel like we have to be the superhero. I can't rest because there's a work. There's a work to be done.
My goodness.
So I want you to chat about that because I think that's going to help some people.
Wild. Okay. This is the first time I'm really talking about it. So.
Oh, well.
Part of me is like, oh, look at this beautiful coffee table. And then a part of me is like, okay, let's dig in. So yeah, I was pregnant with my son. And even prior to that, like, there was a level of, it felt like a requirement to show up and to like be involved and like, this is important, this is for the kingdom. And on one hand, you know, you can like run with that, believe that, and
downhill with that,
and dig, right? Like, we're doing the Lord's work. And I was like, but I have a full-time job, and like, this is starting to also feel like a full-time job, and like, I'm here and I'm showing up, and I'm not feeling fed. We're feeding others, but I'm not feeling fed. And even my husband was like, tapping into some of his gifts for like teaching. And, but it was the same thing. He's like, I feel like I'm just not having an opportunity to get from this. And so we knew that our son was coming, and it was actually a Sunday where we had done the young adult service. I don't know when we were doing it at that time, but we had done the young adult service. We were leading 3 times that Sunday. And like the preparation for that, and then the actual execution of the sets and like the services and all that comes with that. I remember feeling so depleted. And I guess this kind of goes back to what we were talking about of there was no understanding of what would be required to really prepare. Other than like, here's the sets, and you're going to practice those sets. But like the prayer and the preparation and probably the fasting that should have occurred. And like all of those things was not a part of that. And I remember at the end just feeling like so empty. And maybe the people who receive something. I remember feeling great about executing the services, but I walked away feeling like I don't have
empty.
anything
Yeah.
left. And again, I'm pregnant. And so that was just that I think was a very, I didn't know at the time what it was,
Yeah.
but I knew it was time to step back.
Yeah.
In preparation to have this child. My family is not in Kansas City. My husband's family is not in Kansas City. So we were doing this, preparing to do this by ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say we had a wonderful community.
Yeah.
Like, for those of y'all watching, you know who you are. Like, knew we would be supported.
Absolutely.
But knew that when it came to family, we were alone.
Yeah.
And so he and I had a conversation because I feel like we were asked by our leader at that time, like, think about recommitting for a year.
Remember that?
Yeah. And we were like, we can't. We'll come back, but we can't.
Yeah.
And we did not come back. It's it was a hot 6-7 years before that was even entertained. And I think that's the part that we probably need to talk about, because it probably did feel like, what's going on?
Yeah.
How are you involved? And it wasn't like, where did this leader go? But this is like a person who's in the community,
Yeah.
who is now no longer
Yeah.
around. And I remember feeling a sense of like embarrassment. You know, I can't really tell people what's going on. I can't let people know like what my struggle really is.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
There was postpartum. There was just like regular depression that I just had never addressed. I remember being really overwhelmed at my job, and it just felt like to add the work back in of ministry was not going to work with my life. And I remember having conversations with people who were in my circle, who loved me, who were like, just bring your son. Like I used to be up here and I had my baby on my hip and it was fine. It was just like, but that's not what I feel called to do.
Yeah.
And so even in having those conversations, I didn't feel seen.
Yeah.
I don't think people understood the loneliness.
Yeah.
And the like, yes, I miss my friends. But
hey y'all, if you made it this far, you are incredible. Hey, I just want to stop and say thank you for joining us on the Worship Afterisms podcast. You are amazing. Also, I wanted to remind you, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. We hope this is helping you. Also, do know if you're looking for other ways to support us, you can follow us on our merch shop, where every purchase that you purchase helps towards the donation of keeping this show going forward. Now, let's get back into this week's episode.
But my friends are going to help me through what's happening right now. So
that's real talk.
My struggle, like even with worship and at this period of my life, was just needing to be pointed back to God and the freedom that could come from like pursuing the Lord. And I, no shade, just really feel like that I did not really get that.
We're going to come back to that freedom part.
So I was smoking weed. I was avoiding like going to therapy and maybe being put on some sort of antidepressant. Like that, those years were filled with a lot of trying to figure myself out. How can I be a healthy person, like for my husband and for my son? At the same time, my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And so life just really was lifing.
Yeah.
Having to deal with the shame of like, I have this gift and I feel like I'm not using it in the way that I'm supposed to. Like I didn't play music.
Yeah.
During probably 4 of those years.
Yeah.
Didn't play at all. And I remember feeling like when I was pregnant with Solomon, I can't wait to show him what it means to be a worshiper. Can't wait to show him, like, it wasn't in the church. It was just like, can't wait for him to see what it means to live a life of worship.
Absolutely.
And so to go through years of not doing that at all, it had a lot of, effect on me. Fast forward, so we're in like 2022, 2023, and I had tried like, okay, well, I'll try to go back to the original church, and it just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And then there was another church where some people who I love and know were involved, and so I was like, okay, well, I'll try to go there.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like God was calling me to church shop, if you will.
Yeah.
I felt like where you probably need to be, you just need to go.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of like avoiding going and then finally going, and having really great experience with the service.
Yeah.
Loved seeing all my friends, and then was like, this isn't where I'm supposed to be either.
Yes.
So that led me to something outside of church, completely different than what I expected God to do in my life, but it called me back to himself.
Yeah.
And then it just happened to be worship leading again. It was just like,
Held you back.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I remember this is kind of around the time that like Maverick City is coming out, and like United Pursuit, and like those open worship and just things that I felt like, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be a part of.
Absolutely.
And even you and I had talked about something along those lines. And God had, I think, stirred it. I felt the permission, if you will, to like go after it.
Yes.
It just never really lined up. And I remember sitting in this place of like, did I miss it? You know? Did I miss the opportunity? Like, 'cause he didn't take it, but did I miss it?
Yeah.
Being distracted. And so that's when the Esther experience came out. We could talk about that a little bit, but just God allowing for me to step back into the place of worshiping in a setting with others. But it was just very unique. And it was like these women came into my life at the time that I really needed community. Absolutely. It was time to like crawl out of the pit. Yeah. And they helped me do that. Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that I heard you, and this is where we coming back to, you were talking about learning to have freedom in worship again. Yeah. It's so funny because I've also been through that season where it's like, man, the one place that I used to feel free, I now feel in bondage in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which is so crazy because this is my freedom platform. How did I become a slave to this thing now? Right? And I think that's real talk. That's real talk, because there are other leaders who are feeling the same thing in this season, and they're like, man, where's the freedom of my worship? And I think what I've learned for me is often the mistake for me was God was already whispering in my ear that I needed to rest. But I wanted to die on the hill with, but there's still a work to do, right? And then you hear all these great preachers and other worship leaders and people that are leading in ministry who are also dying on the same hill, and they're convincing you there's work to do. And God's going to do it with us, or he's going to do it without us. And nobody wants to do it without, be like left out of the number, right? And the reality is like, no, God's God all by himself. Chris, he doesn't need our help.
My goodness.
Right?
Like, I had someone tell me, Don't waste your anointing. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, oh, well, there's
I'm
work
wasting,
to do.
yeah.
Apparently. Because if I'm not, I'm wasting my anointing.
That's crazy.
And man, there is power in seeking what God would say about it,
Yeah.
not what others would say.
Absolutely. Let's switch into something more goofy and light.
Okay.
What's the funniest moment you've had in worship?
Oh, funniest moment I've had in worship. I've not had a lot of funny moments.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I don't feel like I've had a lot of funny moments. There was a moment that I can laugh about now. I didn't at the time, but
Yeah.
it was like, oh, so serious. I was singing up with the choir, like we were leading worship, and it was like Women's Day or something. So we had this massive choir, and I was asked to sing a song that was not for me.
Yes. Oh my God.
It
yes.
was not for me. You know what I mean? And I remember going through it and singing it and feeling awful. And then people are like, that was amazing. I was just,
Like, no.
I really was. And I was like, that was crazy.
That was trash. In my head, that was trash.
Yes.
And God was not using me at all.
Truly. I think I walked back and was just like sobbing because I felt like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I say I laugh about it now because God's going to do what he wants to do.
That's facts.
He literally will use whatever he wants to use. But in that situation, I just was like, this is crazy.
Yeah. You ain't the only one. You are not the only one.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
You are definitely not the only one.
Yeah.
As we are heading towards our close today,
Okay.
I have a serious question I want to ask you.
All right.
And you can answer it and we'll let you finish answering it.
Okay.
And then you gonna tell us what you got coming up.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
But the question I really want to ask you, what do you think the biggest miss in worship is right now?
Two things: the theatrics and singing songs that aren't really worship songs are. What do I mean by that? There are a lot of songs that are out there that are on albums that are considered praise and worship albums, but they're not worship songs. Are they glorifying what God has done for you, or are they glorifying God for who he is? So I love a song that makes me feel really great about who, like, you brought me through all of this. It's amazing, and this is why I praise you. But God is God, regardless of what he's done for you. And so I just think that's not me. That's a friend of mine. We were talking about that, and when she had pointed that out to me, it really struck me.
Yeah.
Kim Walker Smith from Jesus Culture. I don't even know if Jesus Culture is still a thing. But one of the things that she had talked about was like, I don't sing a song if the lyrics to that song aren't glorifying the Father. And I feel strongly about that.
Yeah.
Like, God will draw men unto himself.
Yeah.
And so we should be singing songs that are bringing that spirit,
That's
that are
facts.
that's gonna touch the people who
Yeah,
are
that's facts.
who are participating, in the service. And so that's a thing. And then the theatrics of it all, I feel like you don't need 16 instruments and like synths and like, that's cool, but you don't need it.
Cool but unnecessary.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
So where are we putting the emphasis as churches are growing? You want to draw more people to the kingdom, but as your church is growing, are the theatrics growing? Are you keeping the thing,
Yeah.
which is the presence of the Lord needs to be there?
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are my thoughts on that.
Feel that. So what you got coming up? What's new?
Well, I have been in a new church.
Love it.
It's a church plant. I think they planted in September last year. Can I plug it?
Yes,
Vine
plug
Hill.
it. Absolutely. Vine Hill.
Vine Hill.
Pastor Alex.
Day Avenue. Yeah, Vine Hill. I love it there because prior to, we have time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Prior to coming back to a church, this pastor had reached out to my husband and I and essentially laid the stage of like, we want to build a healthy church.
Yeah.
What does that mean? We want to build a church built on scripture.
Period.
We want to build a church that glorifies Jesus. And I was like, that's it.
That's it.
Like no other selling points. I'm in. And it took me months. Okay. So this is August, September that we're talking about it. I finally walked through the doors in February and I cried the whole way there of just feeling like,
yes.
God, I just feel like I've abandoned what you have for me.
Yeah.
I know that you have more, but okay. I want to see what this is about.
Yeah.
And it was like scripture alone.
Yeah.
He didn't put his opinion in it. He just talked about the word.
Love
and
that.
that made it so easy to consume.
Yeah.
And the worship was simple, but powerful.
Yeah.
And so I've been hanging out with Vine Hill. I think my vision for, I don't know, my life is like, I just want to be involved again. This seems like a really great place to be involved.
Yeah.
And then from a worship perspective, I'm singing on the team. I'm really enjoying it. I'm not with a guitar, so that's different.
That is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not relying on an instrument. But God's called me kind of out of that.
Yeah.
And lastly, I feel like I want to help these other like young worshipers who are coming through the doors of sing unto the Lord. Don't sing to impress people. That's not what Pastor Alex is even asking us to do. But when you feel nervous, you use that to sing to God.
Yeah.
And bring his spirit down. And then the rest will be handled. So that's what I'm giving my service to, I think, right now. And
yeah.
It's been beautiful.
Yeah. I've been watching. It's definitely been beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
I love
so
it
good. I have loved this conversation.
Me too.
You dropped so many nuggets, and if you didn't watch this all the way through to get to this point, wow. But y'all, I am super grateful if you have made it to this point on the Worship Afterisms podcast, and I have enjoyed having a conversation with Elise Lake. If you ain't already following her, where can they follow you?
Bro, I'm not really. I mean, so you can follow me at Lake House Crochet. I think it's _ Lake House Crochet _ or yeah, I'm on the book on the Facebook if you wanna.
There you go.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Be able to see all the stuff.
And I'm a plugger, so
cool.
Y'all get all the links and things. But I'm loving that y'all made it here, and we hope that you make it back to the next episode and keep growing with us. Until then, I love each and every one of y'all, and be out here. Find your worship afterisms. We love you.
Hey everybody, I just finished with the Worship Afterisms podcast. It was actually really wonderful. I enjoyed my time. Chris, thanks for having me. Everybody else, thanks for having me. And honestly, just make sure you follow on all the platforms so you can catch this episode and any future episodes. I'm actually really excited to watch it myself, so we'll see you there.